You want to know one thing that everyone would love to see return inside of Destiny 2? Vendor refresh. Vendors having a refresh. This is something that a lot of people have been talking about because they want it. Back in Destiny 2, they want it. They want it to be there. And on top of this, Bungie, of course, hasn't, as of recently, been talking about this. They haven't answered this. And even if they did and tried to say, well, we don't have the resources to do that, a lot of people have been biting at them, barking and saying that, well, I would agree with you if you weren't doing this and that. And I'll talk about this and that in this video of why I would understand why people are kind of being like, Bungie, if you can do this, then you can do that. And, I can understand that argument, but I do understand that Bungie did say that these seasons would have less content. But that doesn't change the fact that we're not happy with this kind of format. Destiny 2 definitely, as a franchise, Destiny needs to have new things to acquire. Reasons to grind. Reasons to do activities. And if you don't have those things, people will not do said activities. Now, there's of course those ritual weapons and stuff, but ritual weapons honestly lost their spark ever since they lost the pinnacle weapon aspect of them. I mean, there was a reason to grind Mountaintop, Luna's Howl, and Loaded Question and stuff, because they had interesting new perks to them that made them feel special. But Bungie didn't like that because it made them feel too important, as in to the point where they were exotic, and yet they were legendary weapons. To that I say, well then make them exotic, if you really have to do that. Because they made them very interesting, and it made them fun. I still love Loaded Question inside of PvE. It's just one of those weapons that I do enjoy. All of the pinnacle weapons, I've found enjoyment out of them. But ever since they changed it to ritual weapons, some of them just don't feel as interesting or special like they used to be. So, okay, what could fix that? Well, other things to acquire. When I go to Iron Banner, and I'm like, I'm going to grind it out. I'm going to do the quest line, I'm going to do the bounties, and then when I'm done on all three of my characters, I have a ton of tokens. And I go to Lord Salad, and I first thing I see is nothing. That you can't purchase any static roll weapons that he is selling or anything like that. You have to just donate tokens to get the things, or play Iron Banner and chance it dropping there, and or the bounties. So I turn in tokens, and those thousands of tokens, what do I see? I see armor that I already grinded for in year 1 or year 2. Weapons that I've already grinded year 1, year 2. Nothing new. It's disappointing. It ruins the whole incentive of doing Iron Banner, other than just getting up in power. But that's also an issue. There's nothing to, no reason to grind up anymore. In power, because there's no new raid. The sundial is only legend difficulty, not master, and yeah, but that's a different topic. Then you go to Crucible. Oh boy, a Batter Devils! Oh boy, yay! No, not yay. Oh, Fate Cries Foul! No. I already have a god roll of that. I already have a god roll of Batter Devils, technically, or whatever, that I'm never going to use. And, of course, same thing with the Vanguard. It's the same thing that it is to the Crucible. Same thing with Iron Banner. Same thing with the planetary stuff. Everywhere, the vendors are the same. And not only that, it's disappointing that they don't do what they did in Destiny 1, where they offer a certain weapon for that week that has static rolls to it. And maybe they could make it interesting, because I know a lot of people have legendary shards, so people would just be able to purchase them instantly, where you have to do an objective for that week, for that vendor to get said weapon. That'd be interesting. For example, if like Crucible was selling a god roll so-and-so, I don't know, some new weapon, because vendor refresh is going to be important on that, and it's got some amazing rolls to it that would be well for PvE maybe. So the objective says to go out and play maybe 10 matches of Crucible, or maybe do all these bounties, do the weekly bounties, or I don't know. any kind of objective, and then you can acquire that weapon, but you do need to spend some materials on. I don't know. That'd be something interesting. But vendor refresh is very important. Having new weapons and armor is important. It makes incentive to go out and playing strikes, going out and playing Crucible matches. And same thing with going and acquiring materials that are important in those activities would make incentives. But here's why I understand why the counter-complaint argument, towards Bungie saying, well, we don't have the resources to make these things. Eververse. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Eververse again. It's almost like every Chibi Hour we somehow slip into talking about Eververse, but this is what I've been hearing. People have been saying that the reason why they're disappointed that there is nothing new, weapons, armor, to any of the vendors, and that Faction Rally also hasn't returned, is it's disappointing to see every week going to Eververse, seeing new stuff. Every new free event as well, seeing new stuff. But then you go to Eva Levante, and she's only got one new thing, and that's an SMG. Oh, well, also you got that Sparrow. Cool. But that's basically it. And you don't see any cool new things in the loot pool for all the other vendors for that season. If we have time to make tons, and I mean tons, of Eververse related items, don't you think it kind of makes it look bad when you say you don't have resources and time to make tons of cool things inside of Crucible and stuff? And by the way, when I mean cool, it doesn't mean that it has to look absolutely crazy like the Eververse items. Let's be honest, the Eververse ornaments, the emotes, they're cool looking. Service Revolver inside of Vanguard is just the better Devils, essentially. Just a little bit different. We're not asking for it to aesthetically be the coolest thing in the world, but it would be nice to see new weapons. New-ish. Some kind. It doesn't matter. Just do something new. And speaking of Faction Rally, don't you think it would be really awesome to bring back Faction Rally now? Because you could put random rolls on the armor and the, random stats on the armor, and you could put random rolls on the weapons. And that would make the event more interesting of a battle, because that you actually could choose the rolls on the weapons being sold, and it'd be different each time. So people would be the big sad if, for example, there was a God Roll grenade launcher from Dead Orbit, but New Monarchy won because people preferred to get the God Roll sniper. Just think about it. And honestly, I'm going to be very disappointed because if Faction Rally comes back and nothing really big has changed. They said that the reason why it was just not there anymore was because they wanted to make it better. They wanted to try and make Faction Rally mean something. So if I'm going to see minor changes, I'm going to be disappointed. But we'll have to see about that one. But overall, vendor refresh needs to be in the game. There needs to be new armor. There needs to be new weapons. I know that might require a lot of resources. That's why I would love to hear what Bungie would say, like how they would be able to answer this, even if it means just having a few new things, like maybe 2 new weapons or 3 per vendor. Also, it'd be very nice to see on like the patrol areas, the vendors actually having cool new things to acquire. I mean, the armor set from Titan, I would love to regrind, but having to get tons of planetary materials and stuff and getting poopy rolls, stats on that stuff just doesn't make it cool to go for them. But if they were to, again, each week, have a static roll thing, even armor, like maybe like 1 armor piece and 1 weapon per vendor each week. And some of those vendors might sell something really, really good in the overall total stats, or just the rolls on the weapon. Stuff along those lines. But yes, I understand that these seasons are going to be less and content, but that's kind of why I honestly am getting disappointed on the format that they're going for. And they're not partnered with Activision anymore. And I do have a lot of faith in Bungie. I really love the people that work at Bungie. They definitely work very hard. But they're the higher ups. Listen, you got to listen to the community, because if you make mistakes, you do the bad things, no one's going to point any fingers to anyone other than you. And I don't want that to happen. But when Faction Rally is still gone for no reason, we're not going to talk about it. When vendors don't get new things and the excuse is, well, we don't have the resources, but we're going to put all these resources towards Eververse items. And then people are going to look at that and be like, no, I don't agree. I don't believe that. I don't agree with this. And that's been happening. People have been screaming about that with skill-based matchmaking. The fact that no one wants to talk about that at Bungie, and vendor refresh, and how nobody wants to talk about that at Bungie. Like, it's time. You gotta communicate about these things, because these seasons, especially the fact that they don't have a ton of new things. I mean, the Crucible map was just a remake of a Destiny 1 map, and I remember mentioning that you could do that for Iron Banner, like how they used to do that. Remember, the first Iron Banner of each season would have a remake from Destiny 1, but then maybe in the season pass you do a new Destiny 2 map, brand new. But there's no raid, no new Gambit maps, there's no new strikes, there's no new patrol areas. So I kind of expect a little bit more out of these seasons, but I don't know Bungie's position. I don't know what they're working on. They could be working on Destiny 2. They could be working on an amazingly great expansion. So I kind of give them benefit of the doubt to see what happens. But for example, fast forward a year from now or longer, and we get a disappointing shell of a game or expansion, then I'm not gonna make those kind of statements anymore. Like, oh, benefit of the doubt, they're working on something big. And I don't want to do that. So I would like communication. I would like answers. I think everybody would love that as well. And I do feel like with Eververse, I know that Luke Smith did say that he believes that Eververse should be just cosmetic only stuff, and that's where you get your cosmetic stuff. But this is a looter shooter. People strive to have their Guardians look cool. And I think it would be nice to see ornaments that could be tied to any armor piece return to any armor piece. Like for the Iron Banner ornaments, the fact that you can only put the ornaments of Iron Banner on Iron Banner armor is disappointing. But I do feel like they need to make armor for specific activities interesting again as well. Like the raid armor should have had exclusive perks to them that made them special to make you stronger in the raid. Because if I get that class item over my sniper rifle in the raid, I'm upset, because that class item is just going to turn into an Eververse ornament. I don't like its design. I personally don't. And there's no new cool perks to it. So what's the point of having it when I could just get a sniper with good rolls on it? I don't know. Vendor refresh, important. I mean, they could even make the old raid weapons interesting by putting random rolls on them, making people want to play the game more. But how would they be able to make money off of that? I mean, they could make ornaments tied to Eververse, to like inaugural address and stuff like that, to make them look more royal or whatever. I don't know. Some ideas where we scratch our back, we scratch yours. But either way, I want to know your thoughts in the comments down below about vendor refresh. Like, is it very important? Do you think it's not that big of a deal? Do you agree with anything I say or not agree with anything I say? Just let me know. But either way, have a good one. Have a chibi-tastic day. And I'll see you in the next chibi video. Chibi out.